Hi everyone. It is not Wednesday and it is not 9 o'clock, but I wanted to talk about what is going on because there's a lot happening this week, and I think there's some points that need to be made about the Affordable Care Act that a lot of people may not be aware of. And so, as you know, the Senate passed or took a vote late, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday night. It was a budget resolution vote. It paves the way to repealing the Obamacare, ACA, and the House has undertaken a similar legislation to pave the way to repeal Obamacare. Now, if those of you who have watched CNN, Paul Ryan did a town hall meeting on CNN in which the first person who spoke to him was a person whose life was saved by the Affordable Care Act. And you know what? There are a lot of stories out there of people whose lives were saved by Obamacare. And what I want people to understand is the Affordable Care Act allows people who were never able to get insurance at all to be insured. And the reason I know that is because I am one of those people. I've never really talked about my personal experiences with Obamacare, and I think now might be a good time to do so. You see, when I was in the Navy, I developed migraine headaches. And those of you out there who've ever suffered from migraine headaches know that they can be incredibly debilitating. And but the rule for veterans out there is that they don't get coverage from the VA unless they're more than 40% disabled. Now, over time, migraine headaches can ameliorate, they can get worse. Your life circumstances can affect how often you get headaches. But one thing anybody who's actually suffered from migraines knows is how expensive migraine medication really is. Those pills can be upwards of $50 a pill. Some are even more than that. And if you do suffer from migraines, you know that there can be totally debilitating, meaning you can't do anything. If you have your medication, you're functional. If you don't have your medication, you are totally non-functional. And that is a classic pre-existing condition, right? If you have that, you become virtually uninsurable, or to the extent that you can get insurance, that insurance won't cover anything to do with migraine medication. What is the point of insurance that doesn't cover the one thing that you need a prescription for, right? That's not useful insurance. That's not useful. When I was insured by my employer, I was able to get insurance and it was fine, but I left employment to pursue public office. Well, what did that mean for me? That meant I lost my insurance. I had to use the Obamacare exchanges to find a plan. Now, I was not eligible for a subsidy, so my eyes popped out of my head when I saw these premiums too. I mean, $400, $600 a month is a lot of money for a lot of people. So every criticism about how expensive the premiums are is legit. Those premiums are extremely high. But let's get clear. The Affordable Care Act does not set premiums, okay? And I think this is an important point to make. The original version, one of the many original versions that were presented of the Affordable Care Act that the Democrats pushed, had a provision that capped premiums. And they removed that provision as part of the negotiation with Republicans. Do y'all remember when all this went down back in 2008? The Democrats, perhaps wrongheadedly, really wanted to get Republican buy-in into this legislation. If you remember, Barack Obama had meeting after meeting after meeting with Republicans to try to get them to buy into this. And so there were 139 amendments to what the Democrats wanted through negotiations, right, with the Republicans. They made all these changes to make it more palatable to Republicans to get their buy-in. And one of those compromises that they made to make this act palatable to Republicans was to take away premium caps. And that is why those premiums jacked up so much. But in a brilliant PR move, the Republicans started blaming the act for changes in premiums. You know what? That's flat out wrong. The act does not jack up premiums. It's the insurance companies that jack up premiums. So if you've got a beef with how much you're paying for insurance under the Affordable Care Act, don't call Barack Obama and don't call the Senate. Call your insurance company and say, hey, are you getting rich off of my back? Because that's really what's happening. Right? These insurance premiums are going up because the insurance companies know you are in a situation where you have to pay it. They are taking advantage of that. Now, that is something under the ACA that can be fixed through legislation. I want to take you guys back to the, 1920s and 30s, way, way, way back before we had Social Security. When Social Security was brought into effect as part of the New Deal and Medicare and all these other things, they were not perfect when they were started, right? Over many years and many, many revisions, those programs got better. And now millions of Americans depend on them. Millions of Americans love their Medicare because without it, they wouldn't be able to function. They wouldn't be able to live. Those revisions happened over many years through different administrations. And the thing is that Republicans and Democrats were always able to work together to improve these programs for the benefit of the American people. Now the view is, hey, if this program isn't perfect, let's repeal it. What the hell is that? No, if the ACA isn't perfect, let's improve it. That's the right step to go. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this concept of repeal and replace. Okay, we have seen all kind of stuff about repeal. We have seen absolutely nothing about replace. And I think it's really important that we talk about that. Paul Ryan keeps assuring people that whatever we replace it with is going to be fabulous. Okay, but here's the deal. Republicans have had 8 years to come up with an alternative to the Affordable Care Act and have never been able to do it. Not only are they not able to come up with anything even remotely close to comprehensive, but they've had two presidential election cycles on which to put something out there that they would run on. Because you think if they have a great idea, they put it out to the American people and say, hey, trust us, we got this great idea. Well, guess what? They don't have a great idea. The reality is that the Affordable Care Act was, in fact, their great idea. It was. The Affordable Care Act was an idea that was hatched at the Heritage Foundation, which we all know is very conservative, and was first implemented by Mitt Romney, whom we also know is very conservative, right? Obamacare is essentially Romney care for the country, as opposed to just one state. And so that was the conservative alternative. So the only way that the Republicans can go to replace the Affordable Care Act is either go forward towards single payer, which we all know is highly unlikely, right? Or go backward to some kind of piecemeal tax credit or voucher, or you can buy this, or we help with that, a subsidy or something like that, which is nowhere in the ballpark of actually providing insurance. Everything else that the Republicans have talked about, like health insurance savings accounts, like vouchers and tax credits, all of those things say we'll help you pay for whatever you can get on the open market, but we won't regulate that open market. Which means that people with pre-existing conditions are exactly where they were started, with no insurance. Now, let me tell you something. This is going to affect millions and millions and millions of Americans. And if you think that that's not a big deal, there's something wrong with you. I know that there are a lot of people who said, well, when Obamacare went into effect, my life was made harder, my premiums went up, I had a problem. But I'm going to ask you something. Did Obamacare cause anybody to die? Because losing Obamacare will cause Americans to die. And that is not a fair trade-off. Think, but don't think first and foremost about yourself. Think about everybody. We are in this together. If I am very well fed, is not my priority to make sure that those who don't eat? And is it not okay for me to eat a little less so that they can eat something? Is that not the fundamental description of patriotism, to love your fellow Americans? I think it is. And I think that the Republicans should think very carefully before they proceed down this road of not just folly, but immorality. Because every American who dies is going to be on their head. My name is Pam Keith, and I assure you, I will never stop fighting for the Americans who count on the Affordable Care Act to survive. Have a great Friday.